The Avengers have been brought together once again to tie up loose ends from the first one, this time to get Loki's scepter. But when Tony Stark starts thinking that might be a good thing to deal with the Endgame, that's when things go really bad. Today, we are talking Avengers, Age of Ultron. Let's go! What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Dave Cave. I, as always, am Dave. Now, like I said, we are doing Avengers Age of Ultron today, which marks the last directorial outing for Joss Whedon, unfortunately. Marvel got their hands in a little bit too dirty, and he backed off. This movie also gives us our first introductions to Aaron Taylor Johnson's Quicksilver, Elizabeth Olsen's Scarlet Witch, and Paul Bettany's outing as the Vision. We've seen Paul Bettany, well, haven't seen him, have heard Paul Bettany many times before this as the voice of Jarvis, but finally we get him embodied in the MCU. This also gives us James Spader's Ultron, and yeah, we're going to be talking about him. Before we go any further, I want to do just a little quick plot reminder of what this movie is all about. The Avengers have come back together, like I said, to get Loki's scepter from the first Avengers. From there, they get the scepter, and Tony Stark has the idea to build Ultron. Ultron is basically an AI that they would have send the Avengers all around the world. Like he says, a suit of armor all around the world, peace in our time. And then Ultron really has different ideas, and it goes from there, and stuff goes sideways really, really fast. Like really fast. And of course, first, we are talking about the good. The first thing that really stands out in this movie, and it kind of carries out through the whole movie, is the fluidity of the team. Now, when you watch them in the first Avengers, everybody's kind of doing their own thing, and it happens to work, but everybody is separate. No one's really working off each other. You have the scene where Captain America and Thor, Captain America catches his shield, Thor catches his hammer, and they're fighting next to each other, but they're not fighting together. In this movie, you get people doing moves together. You get a lot of people catching Captain America's shield, throwing Captain America's shield to Captain America. You get Thor hitting Captain America's shield on more than one occasion as a combo move. You get these characters that are working together, throwing enemies to each other and smashing them down, working together, not getting in each other's way, but moving and helping each other. It is much more a team effort this time around. You can tell that there's a familiarity. You get that even more when you have the revels, the after party in Stark Tower, and that lends to so much of the inner workings of all these people, because as much as you see that they have become a family, that they have become this very solid team, when Scarlet Witch starts getting in everybody's head, you see that team is a little bit more fragile than we're led to believe. And speaking of Wanda, that's something I really like about this movie, is the introduction of the twins, Wanda and Pietro Maximoff, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. I enjoy their characters a lot. I actually really enjoy Quicksilver. We're going to put that on hold because we're going to talk about him a little bit more later, but I like them being brought into this movie. I like the way that they start off as bad guys and then are really brought into the Avengers because they realize the Avengers... S.H.I.E.L.D. is not so bad, as Pietro says. The good guys are not really the bad guys. They're really not, even though they think they are because they've been in a war-ravaged country their entire lives, and they blame it all on Stark. And with Wanda and Pietro being brought in, you eventually get the Vision being brought in. But the Vision, originally, is supposed to be Ultron's new body, his more human side, which is what is the catalyst for Wanda and Pietro flipping to the side of the Avengers. What is so awesome about the Vision, like I said, is this is the first time we get Paul Bettany embodied in the MCU. I think up until this point, he had actually had any time spent with any of the actors in the Iron Man movies that he has been a part of. And this is finally bringing him in. You get the voice, and his character is a lot of fun. I love the way he has grown since showing up in this movie throughout the MCU, but in this one you really get some really star moments with him. But the first of those is one that I hadn't caught until this viewing, is when Thor brings the Vision to life, and he throws him, and Vision is looking out the window. He puts the gray suit on himself, right? He turns around and he floats down, and he's talking to everybody. He says, that was odd. And if you watch and pay attention to Vision's eyes, he looks at Thor, he says thank you, and he sizes him up for a second. You see him notice the cape, and then Vision puts a cape on himself. It's an admiration moment that I have no idea how I didn't catch until this time, but adds a very nice touch to Vision, and I just loved it. It was just a perfect little moment. I rewound it and watched it 3 times, and I can't believe I missed it until this time. And hopping onto the Vision Thor bandwagon there, you get the first person that has wielded Mjolnir besides Thor and Odin with Vision. He's talking, he's giving his little pep talk, and then he said, "We need to go." Hands out the hammer, and I remember, even now, it's just a complete that was awesome moment. And then you get that capitalized even later when he actually uses it on Ultron. Both very clappable, very cheery moments. Love them both to death. And moving right along from there, you get the reason we are here, James Spader's turn as Ultron. Now, what I love so much about Ultron is I understand he's supposed to be a little bit more robotic than what we get in this movie. But what is so great is he is able to play Tony Stark's antithesis, but be so Tony Stark. He nails the notes of being Tony Stark, but also you get this menacing calmness about him. And I love that about James Spader. He seethes dickness, but he's so cool, but he's so bad. And that comes through in his turn as Ultron, and you get his interplay with Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark. Love it. Absolutely love it. I thought he was a great, great villain in this movie. Unfortunately, they killed him. But we're going to get into that a little bit later, too. Hold on. Another great little thing that this movie does is it sets up a lot of the fun of Phase 3. Mostly what happens in Civil War. You get Banner and Thor. They get sent off. Really, you get Banner sent off, and we find out that he ends up on Sakaar. And then you get Thor saying that he's going to go start figuring out what's going on with these Infinity Stones, which we get there eventually. But you have Thor gone, and that's why he's not there for Civil War. And then speaking of Civil War, you get our first looks at that when Tony tries to do Ultron again with Vision's body, and he and Cap throw down. It's a little small throwdown, but they still throw down, and we see our first hints of Civil War. And it's because of those little fights that everyone's like, yeah, let's do that. Let's get that going. And you also get, and it's expanded on a little bit in Civil War and even more so in Infinity War, is the beginning of the Vision-Wanda blossoming romance. And I can't wait to see where they go with that, because from what I understand, it gets pretty weird. And of course I'm going to talk about it. We have the Hulkbuster. We finally get the Hulkbuster. We get a little hint of it in Iron Man 3 with the House Party Protocol, but we finally get it. And what I liked so much about this is you wonder, how are they going to have Hulk go crazy? Obviously you can have Hulk go crazy, but to work Wanda into it and have it be that she really sets it off, when you get a Hulk that has a little bit more control than we'd seen before, he's still pretty brutal, and they still need to do, hey big guy, sun's getting real low. You have her amp him up, and you're allowed to have Iron Man go full balls at Hulk, and Hulk go full balls at Iron Man, and they just beat the ever-living crap out of each other. And it's so beautiful, it's so well done, and really it's kind of horrifying to see the Hulk be that brutal again. And I understand we hadn't seen him since the first Avengers, but to see him be a bad guy again for a minute, it's like, damn it. But we get him back. And speaking of the Hulkbuster, I like that they hint at calling her Veronica. I say her calling the suit Veronica, because in the Archie comics you get Veronica and Betty, and as we all know, Betty Ross is Bruce Banner's love interest. Now, I really, really, really want to see Betty Ross come back. I don't care if it's Liv Tyler or if they recast somebody, but I want to see that dynamic of Black Widow and Betty Ross having to deal with each other and Bruce Banner in the middle. Because Bruce Banner as the center of a love triangle, we haven't seen that yet. And that could raise a lot of good eyebrows. Now, the last good thing I want to talk about is also what leads us into the bad, and that's going to be Quicksilver. Now, I thoroughly enjoy Aaron Taylor Johnson's turn as Quicksilver. I understand that this was around the same time that we got to look at First Class's Quicksilver. I enjoyed them both, but I really like Aaron Taylor Johnson's turn as Quicksilver and what he could have been in the MCU. And that turns us into the bad. And how that turns us into the bad is that they killed him brutally. Like, they smoke him hardcore. Ultron lights him up like a Christmas tree. I am hoping pretty much every time that there is a big team-up movie that they're going to somehow bring Pietro back. I don't know how. I hope they do. I think it's going to be a little bit harder for them to come by that this time around because we now have the X-Men back in the MCU for all intents and purposes, and they're probably going to completely recast him so that they can maybe have a little bit more of a mutant starting for him, have him and Magneto really be a thing, and then maybe we learn that Wanda was a mutant and that's how the Mind Stone was able to turn her. We'll see. But I really hope we get Quicksilver back. Big time. So the next tally in the bad column for this movie is the CG in the Birth of Ultron scene and really the fight in the after party. You get these Ultron bots that are all decrepit and messing with all the Avengers and fighting them. There's a couple times where the CG just seems really out of place and copied and pasted on it. It didn't seem to really fit into it. And every time I watch this movie, that breaks it for me. I go, yeah, that still looks like trash. Why? Why couldn't they have tightened that up? Because so much in this movie looks amazing. Like I said, the Hulkbuster fight is amazing. Ultron looks great. All of the fight scenes look spot on. Everything is beautiful in this movie. But that scene is just so spotty, and it just takes me out every time. And the last negative, I know there's not a lot of negatives in this one, but the last negative is the ancient water scene. It's so underdeveloped and just thrown in there. And it's wonky because you have to fill in the blanks. I know they kind of hint that Thor knows about this pool and that he needs Dr. Selvig to go there. They don't really fill in why Dr. Selvig needs to go there. But we are shown also in this movie that Dr. Cho's intellect is upped by having the Mind Stone really control her. And we know that that happened to Dr. Selvig in the first Avengers, right? So you have this man that has an upped intellect. So we know that he probably knows about this, which is fine. I can get behind that. But you're forced to fill in those holes, and I understand that they wanted that scene to go a little bit differently. And the fact that it didn't also is you're like, what the hell? But it's also a very essential scene because it makes sense of why Thor is bringing Vision to life when literally everyone else doesn't know whether or not Vision is supposed to be alive or not be alive, or what he's going to be. Is he going to be a good guy? Is he going to be a bad guy? And then Thor just shows up and makes the decision. And it's because of this water scene. And had they developed it a little bit more, it would have made a lot more sense. Okay, so some final thoughts. When I was watching this movie, I was picking up on a lot of things about Barton. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I thoroughly believe that his entire family gets snapped. In this movie, just before he leaves for the Battle of Sokovia, he mentions to his wife Laura about finishing the sunroom. That scene, very easily, and the reason I'm pausing so much is because it's going to be so heart-wrenching, if this is right, that this is going to be the scene where Barton's family gets snapped. He's going to be working on everything for the sunroom, and everybody's just going to start to fade away. And it's just going to be... oh my god, it's going to be so bad. Now this next thing I want everybody who watches this to remember, because in my Infinity War review, which is going to be coming later this week, we're going to talk about this. Ultron created Vision. Thor brought him to life, but Ultron created him. We're going to talk about that in the Infinity War review. So with this watch through, this movie went up a few spots in where I hold it in the MCU. I really liked it this time around. I usually dread it anytime I'm kind of trying to clip through, going through the movies. I understand that is a much bigger undertaking these days, but I had a really good time with it. I'm glad that I watched it. I have a new appreciation with it, with a couple of the smaller things that I noticed. And like I said, I like to talk about theories, so anything that lends me a theory goes up a notch in my book. Oh, and one last thing. Ultron isn't dead. There's no damn way Ultron's dead. He's not. Just wait. So I'm starting to like this movie a bit more. What about you guys? What do you guys think about the second Avengers movie, Age of Ultron? Hit the comments below and let me know. And also, let me know how you prep for Infinity War and how you prep for Endgame, how you prep for these big movies. I understand that as the middle ones come in, you watch them as they come. But when these get these big team-up movies, what do? Do you watch all of them? Do you watch just the Avengers movies? I understand that sometimes the directors will say, just watch these few. What do? Hit the comments below. Let me know. I want to talk about all that fun stuff. And also, be sure to be on the lookout for my Infinity War review. It is coming later this week before Endgame drops. And also, after Endgame is here, I will be reviewing that as well. And after Endgame drops, I got something coming down the pipe I'm really excited about, and I'm very much looking forward to sharing with you guys. Okay, well that is going to do it for me today. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and share. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Be sure to check me out on Instagram and Twitter at @TheDaveCave_. Post in there when I'm not posting here. Thank you so much, as always, for stopping by the Dave Cave. Take care.